Thank you. It's great to be here, Marco. Thank you for the introduction. And I would like to convey my thanks to Dave Palazzo. As Marco mentioned, Sandia is one of three NNSA laboratories, the original laboratories. And I think you're probably all aware that the NNSA laboratory's primary mission in life is nuclear weapons. So as an adjunct to the other side of that coin, nuclear weapons, is that we have formidable capabilities in understanding nuclear proliferation. And therein lies the NNSA Office of Defense Nuclear Nonproliferation, and specifically R&D, and that's what brings us here today. So I'm here to talk a little bit about Sandia National Labs. We work closely with both Los Alamos, Livermore, and the other DOE laboratories in moving this work forward. The Office of DNN R&D is a primary sponsor of our work, and so we have a substantial body of work that goes with them. So this is very complementary. The university consortia are very important to furthering this at the basic R&D level. Obviously, there are some aspects of the work that are highly classified, and that work we do largely internally and amongst ourselves and does not involve universities typically. But there's a large body of R&D that in fact is fundamental science and engineering that is really ripe for exploitation by the university community. And that's very, very important to us in several different ways. One of those is, as is one of the missions of all of the university consortia, and that is providing a pipeline of talent that ultimately we can employ. We're hoping that those of you that are studying these topics in grad school will see national security as an exciting and challenging career opportunity. There's fantastic work to be done. It's very difficult, and there are huge challenges. So I want to encourage the graduate students to look broadly across the national security enterprise. There are numerous federally funded research and development centers. Marco mentioned the 17 that are managed under the umbrella of the Department of Energy, but the Department of Defense and other federal agencies also have a huge demand and need for technical talent to do this stuff. I'm going to be brief in my comments today because Dave Chichester and I are the only thing standing between you and lunch. And so I will be brief. I did want to acknowledge two of my colleagues that are here. Tom Weber from our National Security and Nonproliferation Center, and Pete Marlowe over here, who is a radiation detection and radiation imaging expert. They are here also. We have a poster, number 17, will be around this afternoon. I invite you to come by and chat with us about some of the work that we do there. Sandia, like I said, is a multi-mission laboratory. Our primary mission is nuclear weapons engineering. We are responsible for the stewardship of the United States nuclear weapons stockpile along with our colleagues at Los Alamos and Lawrence Livermore. We have multiple operating locations. We're known primarily for our operations in Albuquerque and our operations at Sandia in California. It's one Sandia with two sites, and I remind people of that. They're not two separate companies, it's one. People often are confused because the Sandia, California site is literally across the street from Lawrence Livermore. And while from a real estate point of view, Lawrence Livermore is substantially larger than the California site, but there's very important work going on at the Sandia, California site. My contact information is on the slide. I encourage you, sandia.gov is an open website. There's lots and lots of information there if you're curious about the goings on at Sandia. Nuclear nonproliferation and proliferation detection technologies is kind of the more specific area that I'm responsible for. I'm the deputy program manager. I work in a center called Monitoring Systems and Technologies, and to be honest, the big thing that Marco mentioned this morning, that post-boom stuff, the satellite stuff, that's a big, big activity at Sandia, as it is at Los Alamos. And together we build those payloads that, as Marco mentioned, go on every GPS satellite. Next, down. Spacebar. There we go. Okay. So I stole this liberally from Sarah's slides, and there should be no surprises here. of all the thrusts, although I might differ in opinion with Sarah on which ones where Sandia plays, I would contend that Sandia plays in all of these technical thrust areas. Again, because of Sandia's deep roots in the nuclear weapons business, we have a great deep bench and body of knowledge in dealing in all of these areas, including I'll say the more policy-related items, and we continue to do that. Tom will be available, and he comes from a center that deals largely in those kinds of issues. A lot of that work is not for Defense Nuclear Nonproliferation, but one of the sister groups within the NNSA. You can see from this slide that we have activities in every single one of the areas that's important to the CVT. And I'd like to invite especially the graduate students to look broadly, again, across the entire national security spectrum, but if you're interested in Sandia, that ultimately we're interested in hiring you. I encourage you to look at our website. Even if you're not close to graduating, it's always kind of fun to peruse the kinds of postings that are available. At any given time, there are literally dozens of technical postings that are out there, so you can get a flavor for the kinds of folks that we're hiring. And I think you'll see that there are great opportunities. I did want to give Pete an opportunity just to briefly comment on the very successful year we had in engaging CVT graduate students. As it turned out, not all of them, but several of them were engaged in Pete's organization. So if you'd like to comment, Pete, I think it would be helpful to just kind of quickly summarize that.
Sure. If I stand still, I think you can hear me. Yeah, I thought I was just here for moral support, but I guess I'll speak also. So yeah, we did have a very fruitful summer. So I'd like to report, we had just in our group alone in California in radiation nuclear detection systems, we had 6 CVT students from 4 of the CVT universities. And a lot of that work, I think, is going to continue. We'll have lasting collaborations, hopefully. And I think I'd attribute that to 2 different things. I'm sure there's lots of others. 2 that I could think of is, one, the CVT was very good at connecting students with the labs, I think. Right away, you started assembling lists of research topics and students, which is great for connecting the students to the labs. And the other, at least in my work, is receiving funding. So maybe this is for the funding agencies, that the labs are funded in relevant activities so we can keep those lasting collaborations. So I look forward to more collaborations and more next summer.
Great, thank you. Thanks. So I'll close with just a couple of comments. So this again directed largely at the graduate students, and for those of you that have peers and friends that aren't here, you should remind them that this stuff doesn't just happen automatically. It takes a lot of hard work, and we expect you to do some of the work. We're more than happy to try and form these collaborations. It's a challenge. Our proposal cycle with the Office of Proliferation Detection will be kicking off here in a couple of months for the FY17 cycle. The FY16 stuff we're just engaging in. The FY17 call will be out in a couple of months. To the extent that they can, I think Marco tries to influence the call to get it as closely aligned with the university consortia as we can, but it's not always a direct alignment. So trying to align what we're getting funded to do with what you want to do in your interests is always a challenge, but we're always open to considering those kinds of things. It's to our advantage where we can to use our direct funding to try and align those with your R&D and get those connections made, but it doesn't happen magically. It takes a lot of hard work. So to the faculty, I'd say, work with us, and I think all the other lab POCs would tell you the same thing. This is hard work, but it's when we make these connections, it's very fruitful. And I want to again thank you for inviting us. It's great to be part of this consortia. And at this point, I'll turn it back to Marco. We'll be around this afternoon at our poster if you've got questions. And Marco, I think I'll let you introduce my colleague from INL.
So I'm just going to jump into the systems that we're working with and describe them. The first project is with Sandia National Laboratories in California. It's called the Single Volume Scatter Camera.